Hello, this is Mesozorum, and welcome to S.F.M.L tutorials. Today, we'll be making a turret fire pellets towards our mouse. First, we'll be setting up a clock, SF clock, as well as SF time equals clock dot restart. These will be used for delta time later on. We will need a turret that will aim towards our mouse. We will say SF circle shape turret, and that will be 24.0 in radius. We set its origin, turret dot set origin, turret dot get geometric center. It will be a triangle, so we will say turret dot set point count to 3. We will set its position to the center of the screen, so turret dot set position and 0.5f multiplied by SF vector 2f, window size, and we will color it green, so we will say turret dot set fill color, SF color green. Let's scroll down a bit to give us room. Our turret will need pellets to fire, and we need to know how many, so we will say const unsigned int num pellets equals 10. We need to know how fast our pellets will go, so we will say float speed equals 5.0f. We will be keeping track of the velocities of our pellets, so we will say SF vector 2f velocities, and that will have a size of num pellets. We also need an array of our pellets, so we will say SF circle shape pellets, and that will have a size of num pellets. Now we can set up our pellets and velocities in a for loop, so we will say for int I equals 0, I is less than num pellets, plus plus I. The radius of our pellets will be 2, so we will say pellets at I dot set radius 2.0f. We need to set up the origin of our pellets, so we will say pellets at I dot set origin pellets at I dot get geometric center. We need to set the initial position of our pellets outside of the screen, so we will say pellets at I dot set position. The position will be at negative SF vector 2f pellets at I dot get radius by pellets at I dot get radius. And we will color them all red. We will say pellets at I dot set fill color SF color red. Finally, here we will set our initial velocities as 0, so we will say velocities at I equals 0.0f by 0.0f. Scrolling down to give us a lot more room, we will go down here. We need to keep track of which pellet we are currently firing, so we will say unsigned int pellet index equals 0. So that we don't fire all of our pellets at the same time, we need a timer, so we will say float pellet timer equals 0.0f, as well as float pellet timer max equals 0.25f. Later on, to align our turret and pellet, we'll need to turn them 90 degrees, so we will say const float half pi equals a cosine 0.0f. Scrolling down into the while loop, we will go down here. To get our delta time, we will say time equals clock dot restart, then float dt equals time dot as seconds. Here we will add to our pellet timer plus equals delta time. We will need our mouse position, so we will say SF vector 2i pixel position equals SF mouse get position relative to our window. Then to get the mouse position in our window, we will say SF vector 2f mouse position equals window dot map pixel to coordinates pixel position. Now we need the difference in positions from our mouse to our turret, so we will say float dx equals mouse position dot x minus turret dot get position dot x. Now we can copy that, paste it here, and change all of these to y's. We can now get the rotation of our turret by saying rotation equals a tan 2 of dy by dx. Then to align our turret with our mouse position, we will say rotation plus equals half pi. Now we can set our turret's rotation, turret dot set rotation, SF radians, and inside of here, rotation. Now to fire our pellets, we need an if statement. If pellet timer is greater than or equal to pellet timer max, and SF mouse is button pressed. Inside of here, we will say SF mouse button left, and encapsulate all that. We need the angle of our turret, so here float theta equals turret dot get rotation as radians. Here we need to undo our 90-degree rotation that we did earlier, so we will say theta minus equals half pi. We need the direction our pellet will be traveling, so we will say SF vector 2f direction equals SF vector 2f cosine of theta by sine of theta. Using this, we can set the velocities of our pellets. So velocities at our pellet index equals speed multiplied by our direction. After that, we will set the position of our pellets, but first we will say direction multiplied by equals our turret dot get radius. Then pellets at pellet index dot set position, turret dot get position plus our direction. Then we will add 1 to our pellet index. Now we can scroll down to give us more room. Go down here. To make sure we don't go outside the bounds of our array, we can say if our pellet index is greater than or equal to our number of pellets, then our pellet index equals 0. Lastly, we reset our pellet timer equals 0.0f. We will need to move all of our pellets at our velocities, so we will make a for loop for unsigned int I equals 0, I is less than num pellets plus I, and we will copy this for later use. Inside the for loop, all we need to say is pellets at I dot move velocities at I. Now we can draw the turret. Window dot draw turret, as well as all of our pellets. In here, we will say window dot draw pellets at I. Now we can finally save and enter the debug menu. We can see that our turret rotates towards our mouse, and we can fire all of our pellets. Thank you for joining me today. If you did, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day.